How the Amish fermented lactic acid bacteria with rice wash water for healthier plants is not a trend, a hack, or borrowed from modern microbiology labs. It is a quiet practice rooted in observation, patience, and respect for soil life. Long before bottled inoculants and branded beneficial microbes existed, Amish growers understood something fundamental: healthy plants begin with living soil, and living soil depends on the right kind of bacteria, not more inputs. What they did with something as humble as rice wash water reveals an approach to gardening that modern growers are only now rediscovering. Why rice wash water mattered long before anyone named microbes. When rice is rinsed, the cloudy water contains suspended starches, trace minerals, and naturally occurring microorganisms from the grain surface. To most people, it looked like waste. To the Amish, it was food for invisible helpers already present in the environment. They did not talk about lactic acid bacteria in scientific terms, but they recognized that certain preparations improved plant vigor, root strength, and disease resistance year after year. Rice wash water acted as a gentle attractant, drawing beneficial bacteria into a controlled fermentation rather than leaving the process to chance in the soil. How lactic acid bacteria quietly support plant health. Lactic acid bacteria do not feed plants directly. Their value lies in how they reshape the soil environment. These bacteria suppress harmful pathogens by lowering pH slightly and occupying ecological niches that disease organisms would otherwise claim. They also help break down organic matter into simpler compounds that roots can access more easily. In Amish gardens, crops grown in soil enriched with these bacteria showed steadier growth, fewer fungal issues, and stronger root systems, without the explosive, weak growth you sometimes see from heavy feeding. So, how did the Amish encourage fermentation without chemicals or lab equipment? Well, the process began simply. Fresh rice wash water was collected after rinsing rice, never boiled and never salted. This water was placed in a loosely covered container and kept in a cool, shaded area. Airflow really mattered here. Completely sealing the container was avoided because early-stage fermentation needs oxygen before shifting to more anaerobic conditions. Over several days, the water changed in smell, moving from neutral to mildly sweet, and finally to a soft, tangy scent. That smell told them the fermentation was successful. A sharp or rotten odor, though, meant the batch was discarded. Sometimes, milk was actually added to the process a bit later on. In some Amish communities, folks would combine fermented rice wash water with just a small amount of raw milk or whey after the initial fermentation. This step, it encouraged lactic acid bacteria to really take over, while at the same time suppressing any unwanted organisms. As the fermentation went on, curds would separate and be removed, leaving behind a liquid that was just packed with lactic acid bacteria. Now, this liquid was never, ever used at full strength. Instead, it was diluted quite a lot before being applied to soil, compost, or planting beds. The idea here was inoculation, not saturation, and there were specific ways it was applied to really get the most benefit out of it. This fermented liquid was usually poured onto the soil before planting or during the early stages of growth, but never during times of extreme heat or drought. Most often it was applied in the spring to wake up soil life, or after harvest to help break down plant residues. Spraying leaves directly was pretty rare, actually. Amish growers focused on feeding the soil first, trusting that healthy roots would support healthy foliage. Over time, this practice improved soil crumb structure, water retention, and nutrient cycling without disturbing the natural balance herbs and vegetables depend on. Why this method worked especially well for long-term gardens. The Amish farmed the same land generation after generation. so they prioritized practices that built fertility slowly rather than extracting it. Fermented rice wash water did not force growth. It strengthened the biological foundation beneath the plants. Gardens treated this way showed fewer nutrient swings, better resilience to weather stress, and consistent yields without escalating inputs. That consistency mattered more than short-term size or speed. So, how does this differ from modern bottled microbial products? Well, many commercial microbial products introduce concentrated strains into the soil without much regard for the existing ecosystems. The Amish method, on the other hand, worked quite differently. It actually amplified microbes that were already adapted to the local conditions. Rice wash water served as a selective invitation rather than, an invasion. This is exactly why the results were stable and long-lasting. Soil life was supported, not replaced. So, why should modern gardeners pay attention to this old practice? Well, today's gardeners often chase fixes for yellow leaves, weak growth, or recurring disease without really addressing soil biology. The Amish approach, reminds us that plants truly thrive when soil microbes are balanced and active. Fermented rice wash water isn't a fertilizer. Instead, it's a soil conditioner at the biological level. When used sparingly and thoughtfully, it can actually improve nutrient availability, root health, and plant resilience, without disrupting gentle gardening systems. Now here's how to apply the lesson, even if you never ferment a single drop. The real takeaway isn't the recipe, but the philosophy behind it. Observe your soil, feed microbes before feeding plants. Try to avoid overpowering natural systems with excess nutrients. Whether you decide to ferment rice wash water or just compost more intentionally, the principle is, still the same. Healthy plants, in the end, are a reflection of healthy soil life. This quiet Amish practice endures because, quite simply, it works. Not fast, not flashy, but faithfully. In a world always chasing instant results, it stands as proof that patience, biology, and respect for the unseen are still the most powerful tools any gardener can use.